Okay, so I'm sitting here at number 11. I'm the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not even thinking. I'm going to hang up the phone. I'm going to unplug the phone. I'm walking straight up to the commissioner. Myself. I am Sapioli. I'm not even going to hand it to the runner. I'm going to run up there myself and hand it straight to the commissioner's hand. I'm going Dontari Poe. Right now, their biggest need is the nose tackle. They fixed the right tackle position, which was a big need for them. They also have a nagging need at cornerback, but there's a lot more depth cornerback position than the nose tackle position in this draft. Dontari Poe reminds me a lot of Vince Wilfork, especially the angles he takes, the athleticism, the size. I'm saying, hey, hallelujah, I've got my nose tackle. My front seven is complete. I am taking Dontari Poe, nose tackle from Memphis. Lock it up.
All right, I like the pick, and I definitely agree with you. I think the pick makes a ton of sense. I'm sitting here at number 12. I'm the Seattle Seahawks. Coming off a promising season. I have a few needs. Okay, I don't need a quarterback, obviously, because I've already secured the services of Matt Flynn. I have a decent backup quarterback, so I'm not looking for a young quarterback. I've got a decent offensive line. I do have a few needs here, though. I feel like I need to improve the pass rush significantly. I've got one good defensive end in Chris Clemens. I could also do myself a favor by upgrading the linebacking core. Leroy Hill could use to be upgraded over. David Hawthorne actually split and went to New Orleans. So I could use an upgrade at the linebacking position. Also, I could use an upgrade at corner. I thought Brownie did a fantastic job last year, but Marcus Trufant has not been as good as he's been in the past. Bringing in another young corner could be a good opportunity. So when I'm looking at the board here, when I'm looking at who is available to me, I start to look. Luke Kluwe, from the linebacker from Boston College, makes a ton of sense. I also like Melvin Ingram for the 4-3 front, the defensive end from South Carolina. I'm also thinking of Fletcher Cox or possibly a Michael Brockers, defensive tackle, because they could use some help at that under tackle position next to their talented nose tackle Brandon Mabine. But in the end, I got to go with a pass rush. I got to be able to create havoc. And you know what? The guy has limitations, but at the same time, he has a ton of production in one of the toughest divisions in all of college sports, and that's the SEC. So I got to go with Melvin Ingram, talented defensive end from South Carolina. Guy, it has the production. All the measurables might not measure out, but at the same time, this guy has been highly productive against some of the best offensive tackles, some of the best players in the country. So I'm going with Melvin Ingram, defensive end from South Carolina, to help shore up that pass rush there in Seattle.
Wow. As the Arizona Cardinals, I'm rather disappointed. That was going to be the pick that I was going to make. At 13, the Cardinals did lose a ton of linebackers this offseason, including Joey Porter, who's just way too old, as well as several others that just didn't fit the mold anymore. So Melvin Ingram would have fit perfectly into that situation. But right now, I'm looking at, we re-signed Levi Brown, but could we switch him over to right tackle and possibly take a left tackle here? Is cornerback Stephen Gilmore, Dre Kirkpatrick, Janoris Jenkins, those are all guys who are available on the board right now that we could definitely use and use particularly well. But I think I'm going to stick with the left tackle. I'm going to go with Jonathan Martin over Mike Adams very slightly. The left tackle from Stanford, he's a better pass blocker, and really, as of right now, Kevin Collins needs all the help he can get. Let's face facts. Or John Skelton, if he ends up taking the starting position away from from Cobb in the second year. So either way, having that extra boost of pass rush help is going to, or a pass blocking help is going to really secure both bookends for quite a long time. So with the 13th overall pick, the Arizona Cardinals are going to take Jonathan Martin, left tackle from Arizona, or from Stanford.
All right, I like the pick. And here I am. I'm the Dallas Cowboys. I'm sitting here at number 14. I'm drafting a little higher than I'm used to drafting. But last year, I was drafting in the top 10. I took Tyron Smith. I've helped to shore up my secondary, signing probably the number one corner in free agency in Brandon Carr. So I have a talented young corner now. I could still look in the secondary, especially at safety, next to Sensabaugh back there. I got Mark Barron, who's on the board, easily the most talented safety in the entire draft from Alabama, hard hitter, played against elite competition. So I'm thinking about him. I could also bring in another corner. You know what? I released Terrence Newman, so bringing in Carr, although an upgrade, does not help to improve the depth any. So I could bring in a guy like a Drake Kirkpatrick, but I already have Scandrick. I already have Mike Jenkins. So he would probably be 3 or 4 for me. So in the end, I'm bringing in a guy that I feel can be a significant upgrade and also start right away. I had a ton of Smith with Tyron Smith last year, played in the Pac-10, great translation. So I'm going to take the first guard off the board and follow the same school as you. I'm going with David DeCastro, offensive guard from Stanford. We've seen a ton of issues from that offensive line last year after they released a few veterans like Andre Garrard, Mark Colombo. I think that they're going to be committed to improving this offensive line for Tony Romo's sake. So for that, I'm going with David DeCastro, offensive guard from Stanford, who, in my opinion, is easily the best offensive guard in this entire draft.
And now I'm here with Philadelphia at 15. DeCastro was very tempting. There's also a ton of defensive tackles, and a lot of them are falling at this point. I mean, a few of these guys are definitely a lot lower than their national average. I mean, Brockers is considered easily a top 15 pick, as well as Fletcher Cox from Mississippi State. Now the question is, what am I really looking for in my defensive tackle? And which one is better for me right away? Right now, I'm the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm thinking, hey, we're only a few players away from doing some real damage. They drafted a guard last year, and could really use another one. So Cordry Glenn, considering DeCastro's off the board, Cordry Glenn, a guy who can play two positions, not only guard but right tackle as well, that could really be a major help. And I could see his stock really rising here, but I think I'm going to go with Fletcher Cox, the defensive tackle from Mississippi State. He's more pro-ready than Brockers, I feel. He's a better pass rusher than Brockers, and also a little bit less in the issues department as well. So I'm going to take Fletcher Cox, the defensive tackle from Mississippi State, for the Philadelphia Eagles at 15.
All right, so that's through our first 15 picks. We do have about 15 minutes left, James, so we are going to pick up the speed. We are going through our first round of our Sports City Chefs mock draft with Brian and James here on the NFL Front Office Show, brought to you by Sports City Chefs. Once again, we want to tell all of you, thank you so much for tuning in, continuing to listen to us. We do appreciate that. So with the last pick, James, you went with Fletcher Cox, the talented defensive tackle from Mississippi State for Philadelphia. I'm sitting here at 16. I'm the New York Jets. I just signed Tim Tebow. I feel like even though the defense was an issue last year, I feel like I need to add to this offense. Cordry Glenn, a guy you just mentioned, is a definite possibility here. I also feel like I could bring in I could use a wide receiver, especially a big red zone threat, because Plexico Burress was not brought back, and Santonio Holmes is the only other guy there. A talented guy like Michael Floyd, who's a big physical wide receiver, might make some sense here. Also, a guy like Kendall Wright might make some sense here. I also think another guy that makes a ton of sense here is Mark Barron, the safety, who could be a significant upgrade over Eric Smith. That division, you play against Thomas Brady. You definitely need to be able to defend the pass. All these names are swirling, but I'm the Jets. I'm playing in the Big Apple. I need to go for the glamour pick. I can't get a safety in round one when the offense is lacking. So I'm going after Plexico's replacement. I'm going with Michael Floyd, the talented wide receiver from Notre Dame.
Very interesting pick, and I'm sitting here at 17 on the Cincinnati Bengals, and it's going to be a real difficult pick. I mean, I was hoping that DeCastro would fall this way. There are still quite a few wide receivers that I could take a look at in the case that if Jerome Simpson does not make his way back to the field due to his off the field issues. And really, the Cincinnati Bengals, at least thus far, as far as drafting is concerned, has been really adamant about staying away from character issue guys. So I think Michael Floyd might not have been the right pick for them, considering this kind of newfound strive towards character, and that kicks Janoris Jenkins, I think, off of the reservation as well. So I'm actually going to go with Cordry Glenn, the offensive guard slash right tackle from Georgia. He's a guy who's really moving up the boards, I feel, and I don't think he would have lasted too much longer if I didn't scoop him up here. There is a big need at the offensive guard position for the Cincinnati Bengals, so I feel that this is something that they can really get themselves behind. So with this pick, I'm going to go with Cordry Glenn, the offensive tackle the offensive guard from Georgia.
All right, interesting pick. Next up on the clock is the San Diego Chargers, and obviously, I got to get moving here as we're running out of time. Outside linebacker is easily the number one need here, James. And I don't believe there's a pass rusher when you've seen how many have flown off the board that's worthy of this high a pick. So when I turn to my next biggest need, as a team, we released Marcus McNeil, who was our number one, our left tackle. So he's not there. I think left tackle could be upgraded. I think keeping Phillip Rivers safe has got to be a priority. So when you start looking at some of the guys that could potentially be, the pick there, Mike Adams, his name is going to fly around, as a possible suitor. You're also going to hear the name. You've mentioned Jonathan Martin, Riley Reed. These guys are off the board. So I'm trying to figure out which guy for San Diego will make the most sense. They could also look as kind of a surprise pick. They could also look at Luke Kluwe, because Luke Kluwe actually fits what they need, which is a run-stuffing middle linebacker. I'm trying to figure out, what is going to be the best situation for me. You've already taken Cordry Glenn off the board. Ultimately, I am probably going to reach slightly, but I'm going to go with kind of a shocker pick here, a guy that I think could be better as a pro than he was in college, because this is what happens on the draft day. You see guys project to go a little bit higher. So I'm going to go with Nick Perry, the talented outside linebacker from USC. I think the value ultimately ends up being better at outside linebacker with a guy like Nick Perry than it is at offensive tackle when you consider the next highest guy is probably Mike Adams.